Sorry, folks, I'm trying to position myself here correctly. But you know, I was reading an article on DeviantArt, one of the journals that I've saved in my favorites over the past few years. Actually, about a year and a half ago, I saved this. And, well, basically, this fan didn't ask the question, but basically, title-wise, and that was my iPod starting to be recharged, but asked the question, well, not asked the question, but basically stated, in their opinion, why they felt that Sally's death or sacrifice in 230 was BS. Basically, they just felt that, well, if you read the article, they felt it was unnecessary. That there was no real need for it. That there could have been other options. They also state that you don't take a popular character, a character that's beloved by the fans, that has a following, and do that. You don't do that. Nor do you go and do what you did afterwards. Knowing that, and especially you don't do it at a time where you're pretty much telling the fans, oh, by the way, next year she's going to be okay. She's going to be back to normal. You know, well, not next year, but basically the following year. You don't do that. You don't do that in the eyes of some fans when you think about it. You don't do that at all. I mean, essentially, from basically what they're saying is that from October 2011 to when they typed this, and then recently, I guess if they wanted to continue on with it, last year, you know, they basically felt that the 2 years or near 2 years of Sally being in the situation was BS, was not really necessary. You know, and that is a common question. Well, not a common question, but that is a question that a lot of people, I think, would like to kind of ask themselves, even those that were against this, but look back on it. And, you know, it's just something that a lot of fandoms always ask when something like this happens, and that is, was the sacrifice really necessary? And in this case, was Sally's sacrifice really necessary in the long run? Now, I know a lot of fans are going to say, well, yeah, it was necessary. It basically shows that the freedom fighters are not invincible, that they are vulnerable, and that, you know, with this comic book, you never know what's going to happen. You never know what's going to take place next. Even though, through artistic, Viant covers, you pretty much get an idea of who it's going to be, and so on and so forth. But still, the question is, was it BS? Was it complete BS? I mean, I did a video where I basically asked the question of, was the Mecha Sally arc, basically I asked the question, did the Mecha Sally arc but you'll see the video here. Basically, I asked the question of, was it necessary for the Mecha Sally arc to go so long? I mean, again, let's not forget, basically from near the end of 2011, if not at the end of 2011, and going up till, you know, recently in the summer, if not towards the end of 2013, you basically had a storyline which was very controversial in the eyes of many fans. Some liked it, some didn't. You know, me particularly, you've heard what I've said over the past few years. I basically felt that, hey, I don't like what they did. You know, honestly, I mean, it's like, why, out of all characters, would you do this to her? Now, some fans commented on this topic that this this fan did over at DeviantArt, and basically they commented on the fact that, and I'm not sure if they still think the same way now. Maybe they've changed their tone, but they were fans then, and I don't know. Maybe still now, and maybe not. I don't know. Maybe like I said, they've changed their tone. I don't know. But some fans felt that the only reason Sally was put into this situation was so that Ian Flynn could put more emphasis on Amy Rose. Now, there's no doubt that Sega, in a sense, wants the comics to focus more on game-related material, if not at times on game-related characters. And I think that's what Ian Flynn's initial plan, in a sense, was with the whole Mecha Sally arc, World Tour 2, Death Egg Mark II arc, whatever you want to call it. I think that's what his initial plan was in the end, was he wanted to basically appease Sega and say, look, I'm focusing 2 years on Sega characters trying to restore the world, trying to reunite the freedom fighters, trying to restore her free will, and thus de-roboticize Sally back to normal. I'm focusing all of that story on these main characters. You know, hopefully this will be enough to appease you guys and say, and basically let you guys, and basically then allow, and then basically have you guys allow us to do what we need to do. In other words, I think in a sense that as confusing as it sounds, I think Ian Flynn's initial idea was to do a story long enough where it focused on the main characters, if you will, the Sega characters, saving the day at the end of all that, and then maybe as a reward, as a satisfactory result, perhaps allow Ian Flynn and whoever worked on the comic to finally do the comic and write the comic the way they feel the fans want to see it. Not just the way Sega wants to see it, but the way the fans want to see it. But then, of course, you have the whole situation behind the scenes that didn't help, and that's another story that we've all discussed many times. But initially, the thing is, to me, is I look at the Mecha Sally arc, and again, you know, the question, I'm sure, you know, I still want to know if it's fans, even to this day, still feel if it was BS, but to me, I look at it this way. Looking back on it, I wasn't happy with what they did to Sally, and I'm not going to hide that, being a fan for as long as I have. So I wasn't happy, but I could also, in a sense, understand why they did it. They wanted to show that nobody, well, in Ian Flynn's case, wanted to show that nobody was invincible. Nobody was as protected as you thought they were. So I can understand, in a sense, that you wanted to prove that everybody was vulnerable. Everybody. But in the long run, though, you really didn't do much with it. I mean, one of the things that I mentioned in my response to the best and worst story arcs topic that they did on DeviantArt, I think Vorak did on DeviantArt, and I posted that sort of my video response and everything on some of the forums. Basically, the reason I felt that the Mecha Sally arc didn't do so well was because they could. Well, it's not just because of what happened behind the scenes, but also the fact that they had so much potential that even with what was going behind the scenes, you could have still made it good. I mean, Ace of Speed, a fan artist here on DeviantArt, he did a picture basically where he took the concept of what happened to Metal Sonic in Sonic Heroes, and where he became that ultimate form, and basically said that, you know, this story could have, in a sense, to me, kind of was saying that, hey, this story could definitely become something good, could potentially, you know, be something memorable if, let's say, you have Mecha Sally, or Sally as Mecha Sally, kind of get so corrupted to the point that even Eggman gets overthrown by her, and basically she feels like, hey, I'm more evil, I'm more capable of beating these guys. You do nothing but sit around on your butt and all that and make plans that fail. I can do that, so I can do that. And then maybe go in as a final, you know, a final climax, have her go in that direction of becoming like Metal at the end of Sonic Heroes, and going ultimate, almost dragon-like, you know, to where she becomes like, I think what he called an Empress Queen, if you will. Very similar to what Metal Sonic became. And to me, that sounds like it had a lot of potential, and that could have really helped out, because then, you know, the way you could have ended is you could have had Sonic get ready to sacrifice himself at the hands of Sal and say, hey, you know, I did what I had to do to save you, and if you're going to do this to me and it means the world's going to be doomed, then so be it, kind of deal. Or if he was going to allow himself to be roboticized, I mean, you could have gone any way with it. But, you know, go to the playlist. It's in my playlist section, and you'll see what I'm talking about. But the point is, I don't necessarily look at it as BS. I don't look at Sally's sacrifice as BS. I mean, you need to do something with a major character every now and then to really get people's attention and really try to get the comic back on track. I mean, you take a look at X-Men back in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, and you had the whole thing with Jean Grey, and Jean Grey was a popular character, and yet they had her go through that whole Phoenix deal, and she sacrificed herself to save her friends. Yeah, she did come back, according to Zero Nizarak, in one of his response videos to me that he did a couple years ago on his other channel, Zero Nizarak Responds. He basically said that the Jean Grey that was walking around as Jean Grey, that the Jean Grey that was walking around was not the real Jean Grey, that the Jean Grey that was being the Phoenix was not the real Jean Grey, and that the real Jean Grey was at the bottom of the sea, safely protected within some kind of a cocoon. So, I know it sounds confusing, but still you had that reassurance down the line, and I think an X-Men or X-Factor issue or something like that, where you found that out. So, to me, I think, in a sense, I look at it as Sally being in that. I mean, I said this before. I look at it as Sally being the Jean Grey, Sally's sacrifice as BS as some people may look at it, and as an understanding as some people may look at it. I see her sacrifice as being similar in a sense to Jean Grey's. Not in the same category, but similar. I mean, both sacrificed themselves to save the friends and the families and the planet, and because of that, both got corrupted. So yeah, it's similar, but different perspectives, different outcomes. You know. But in the end, the question still remains, not just for me as I try my best right now to answer it, but the question out to you guys is, do you think Sally's sacrifice in 230 was still BS? Do you agree still with this topic, this journal that was made 2 years ago, or a year and a half ago? Do you think it was BS? Do you think it was necessary? I'm just checking something there. Or do you think perhaps it could have been done better? Whatever. Or whatever. So let me know what you guys think down below. Comment if you like, and I will talk to you all later.